Great speech and all, Doc. You had him riveted. But didn't you forget something?
What?
Your secret stuff.
Oh man, wouldn't that be great if it was real?
Yeah. Matt, are you okay? Matt, what the heck did you just eat?
A peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, the show that takes the crunchy parts of food science and blends them with the creamy goodness of childhood nostalgia. Friends, recently I've been doing a ton of research for a Space Jam film theory, which you want to keep an eye out for, so make sure you're subscribed to Film Theory if you're not yet. But while I was doing it, I ran across an interesting article about a craze that's been sweeping the National Basketball Association for the past few years, and that craze is peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Apparently, a ton of basketball players swear by the pb&J, claiming that sandwiches boost their performance on the court. Teams even go so far as to have their staffs prepare peanut butter and jelly sandwich buffets, which are available to the players at game time, to which I say, really? Like, there is just no way that can be true, right? I mean, if peanut butter and jelly sandwiches actually enhance athletic performance, then riddle me this. Why was I regularly picked middle of the pack for kickball at recess? I was down in pb&Js like crazy back in the 3rd grade. Now, I'm not doubting that NBA players think that these sandwiches help them. Superstition and ritual are a huge part of sports. Plus, there's no denying that tap water placebo helped the Toon Squad defeat the Monstars back in 1996. But from a dietary standpoint, surely there's gotta be a better source of nutrients out there.
Don't call me Shirley.
Especially for professional athletes who have team chefs on standby ready to make whatever dish is asked of them. I mean, millions of dollars are on the lines for these teams, and they're making peanut butter and jelly? Surely the humble peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
Don't call me Shirley.
whose recipe is so simple that its name literally is the recipe,
Its name is the recipe, you
Absolute donut.
isn't some kind of mystical superfood, right? Well, that's precisely what we're figuring out today. Theorists, I want to know if there's any truth to the NBA's pb&J craze. And if it does work, I want to know why. And I want to know if there's an even better way of doing it. So it's time to get hyped, theorists. Come on and slam, and welcome to the jam. And peanut butter. First things first, it's important to acknowledge that the rules of nutrition are a bit different for serious athletes. The ideal diet of a professional basketball player at game time is different from the ideal diet of, say, a YouTuber at upload time. Though, even I will admit that my heart starts to race whenever an episode cracks into the top 10 of trending. For example, the USDA uses a 2,000 calorie per day diet as a one-size-fits-all number for us normies. Meanwhile, there are NBA players out there consuming basically double that amount, especially if they're trying to put on muscle mass. A typical peanut butter and jelly sandwich has 378 calories. That's 19% of the daily calories us normies need. 5 sandwiches in one day, boom, you can pretty much stick a fork in us because we are done. But for an NBA player on a 3,750 calorie diet, well, that peanut butter and jelly represents less than 10% of their daily intake. NBA players also need protein to help their muscles recover between games. They need energy for very specific periods of time, and as anyone who's ever seen a Gatorade commercial can tell ya, they need to replenish the electrolytes that they lose from their glowing sweat. Now, forgive me, but it's a little hard to believe that the sandwich that regularly got traded for half a granola bar at my grade school is able to answer all of those needs, but let's look at how the peanut butter and jelly sandwich got to where it is today, and maybe we'll have a better idea of what's really going on here. According to ESPN reporter Baxter Holmes' article, The NBA's Secret Addiction, the NBA's pb&J trend started back during the 2007-2008 season when a player on the Boston Celtics was complaining before a game about how hungry he was, offhandedly mentioning that he could go for a pb&J. His Hall of Fame-bound teammate Kevin Garnett overheard the comment, took it seriously, and said, yeah, let's get on that. And the coaching staff did indeed get on that because, well, when a guy as intense as Kevin Garnett wants something, it's probably best to give it to him.
So I don't anticipate you liking me. I don't anticipate you trying to be my friend, because I'm not trying to be your friend.
As the story goes, Garnett incorporated the sandwich into his game time ritual that night, had a great game, then declared after the game, quote, we're gonna need pb&J in here every game now. Now, I'd love to give you Garnett's stat line for the game, but sadly nobody nobody seems to recall exactly what game it was. But the fact of the matter is this: the Celtics coaching staff assembled about 20 PB&J sandwiches before each game for the rest of the season, and the Celtics won the NBA championship that year, their first title in 22 years. And this, theorists, was the beginning of a trend that would become a phenomenon. Teams visiting Boston saw the world champion Celtics had stacks of PB&J sandwiches waiting outside the locker room, and they demanded the same from their teams. And according to Holmes, some of those teams have taken the PB&J ritual to a whole nother level. Quote, the Milwaukee Bucks might boast the NBA's most elaborate PB&J operation, a pre-game buffet featuring smooth, crunchy, and almond butters, an assortment of jellies, raspberry, strawberry, grape, blueberry, apricot, 3 breads from a local bakery, white wheat and gluten-free, and Nutella. The team scarfs 20 to 30 PB&Js per game and travels with the ingredients, which rookies prepare in the plane and in visiting locker rooms. They've even offered their players PB&J flavored oatmeal, PB&J recovery shakes, PB&J waffles, and PB&J pancakes. Bucks team chef and dietitian Shawn Zell won't rule out one day making a PB&J burger. So the Milwaukee Bucks are obviously one of the teams that hopped onto the PB&J train hard, but they're far from the only ones. The Houston Rockets organization offers players PB&J sandwiches pre-game, at halftime, and on post-game flights. Ditto for the Portland Trail Blazers, the San Antonio Spurs, the Los Angeles Clippers, the New Orleans Pelicans, the Washington Wizards. Holmes' article mentions how the PB&J has spread to the Orlando Magic, the Brooklyn Nets, the Memphis Grizzlies, the Lakers, the Cavaliers. Point is, a whole lot of players and organizations are on board with the PB&J. But why? And does it actually work? Well, let's look at the 3 components of the PB&J to see in what ways, if any, the sandwich helps players on the basketball court. The 2 slices of bread contain a fair number of carbohydrates, 26.8 grams to be precise according to the US Department of Agriculture. As the body's main source of energy, carbs are obviously pretty useful to a basketball player who's running and jumping for up to 48 minutes per game. White bread is also a high glycemic index food, meaning it raises blood glucose levels quickly. In short, bread equals energy now. And the same can be said of fruit jellies and jams. See, white bread and jellies contain simple carbohydrates. We discussed this at length in our reheated pasta episode, but basically carbs come in chains. Some chains are very long and complex, and others come in chains that are very short and simple. Because the carbohydrate chain in white bread and jelly is so short to begin with, the body's able to quickly break them down into individual glucose molecules, which are absorbed into the bloodstream where it can be utilized for energy immediately. Meanwhile, peanut butter is helpful to basketball players, but in a different way. Peanut butter has a low glycemic index score. Its chains are longer and more complex to break down, meaning it's going to give you energy down the line. But what it does offer more immediately is lots of protein and sodium. Not only does protein help in muscle recovery, but it plays an important role in gluconeogenesis, which is another way for your body to get glucose if there isn't enough carbs readily available. And the sandwich's 405 milligrams of sodium, one of those pesky electrolytes that Gatorade is always going on about, helps replenish the sodium that athletes lose from sweating. Alright, so maybe there is something to the whole PB&J craze, but it's important to remember that not all nutritionists agree. Case in point, nutritionist Lachlan Penfold, who the Golden State Warriors hired in 2015, rebelled against the NBA trend with a no PB&J policy, citing the fact that the sandwiches contain too much sugar. And it's true, there are 15 grams of sugar in a PB&J, most of it coming from the J portion of the sandwich. The players on the Warriors, including future Hall of Famer Steph Curry, were so passionate about their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that they revolted and begged Penfold to reconsider, which he did. But should he have stuck to his guns? Well, there's a lot of conflicting info out there about the effectiveness of sugar on athletes, and far be it from me to question world-class sports nutritionists, but it sure seems like PB&Js have helped the NBA teams that have adopted them. Not only did the PB&J-fueled Warriors finish the regular season with the best record in NBA history, but their star Steph Curry became the first NBA MVP elected by unanimous vote. And it's not just the Golden State Warriors either. Remember how the Milwaukee Bucks had quite possibly the best pre-game PB&J spread in the entire league? Guess who's playing in the NBA Finals as we speak for the first time since 1974. I'd also have to add that peanut butter and jelly sandwiches have only a fraction of the sugar that Gatorade has. And Gatorade has been made very, very available to athletes since, like, its inception, but especially during the 2021 NBA playoff games. But the thing that really gets me is this. Despite a decade of taking the PB&J ultra seriously, there's a sandwich customization that NBA teams could be taking advantage of that no one seems to be talking about. See, according to sports nutritionists at Central Washington University, the best approach is to have low to moderate glycemic index foods before exercise, and then eating high glycemic index foods and simple carbs during exercise, if you need it to sustain you until the end of the game. So following their recommendations, it would mean that the ideal way to eat a PB&J, as weird as it might seem, would be to eat the sandwich in parts. The low glycemic index peanut butter would be eaten first, prior to the game time, then the simple carb-laden breads and jellies would be eaten during game time. And if any NBA players out there are allergic or just don't like peanut butter, fear not, there are other seemingly unhealthy grade school nostalgia lunch items with similar nutritional benefits. Just take a look at the nutrition facts on the back of the Lunchables pizza with pepperoni. Plenty of carbs, similar protein content, and there's extra sodium for all you extra sweaty basketball players. Heck, pepperoni pizza Lunchables even have less sugar, which should make Lachlan Penfold pretty psyched. And of course, the Lunchables ingredients can be easily separated out and eaten at different times, which, ironically enough, is how I chose to eat these things in grade school. No joke, I never assembled the pizza, I just ate them in pieces and parts. So, dear LeBron James, I recommend you take a page out of old 3rd grade Matpat's playbook, eating the low glycemic index pepperoni, cheese, and tomato sauce prior to the game, and then saving the higher glycemic index crust for during the game. You're welcome, LeBron. And yes, I am fully aware that I'm telling grown men in the NBA to deconstruct their favorite 3rd grade lunch item in the most uncool way imaginable. I may or may not have had some first-hand experience in that department. I would never wish that level of uncoolness upon another person, but still, there is a PB&J arms race going on in the NBA, people. Teams are further optimizing their PB&Js each and every day. So any NBA player out there who's looking to get an edge on the competition should consider biting the bullet and eating their deconstructed sandwich the dorkiest way imaginable. And that goes for granny shot free throws too, guys. Science has proven that the granny shot, as unhip as it looks, is actually the optimal way to make a basket. In short, great things await any NBA player who dares to be tragically uncool. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. Thanks for watching, Theorists, and like I said, make sure you keep an eye out for that upcoming film theory episode on Space Jam. Link to subscribe to that channel is on screen right now. Not only did it inspire the food theory episode that you just watched, but just a really fun look into how Space Jam, undoubtedly one of the worst movies ever made, is actually worse than you imagined. Be sure to dunk on that notification bell before you go, and we'll see you next time.